She tried to silence her, and it blew up in her face. Right in the middle of a live congressional hearing in front of cameras, journalists, and millions of Americans watching at home, Attorney General Pam Bondi cut off Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett mid sentence. No warning, no courtesy, just a hard, cold stop. And the moment it happened, the room shifted. You could feel it, but here's what nobody expected. Jasmine Crockett did not back down. She did not lower her voice. She did not apologize. Instead, she turned the entire moment into something that is now being called one of the most powerful congressional exchanges of the year. Clips are flying across every social media platform. Political analysts are calling it a massive miscalculation, and people on both sides of the aisle are talking about it because what happened next was something nobody in that chamber saw coming. This is breaking news. Stay with us because every detail matters. To understand why this moment is exploding, you need to understand exactly what was happening inside that hearing room. It was a high stakes congressional oversight hearing, the kind Washington holds when the pressure is high and the stakes are even higher. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, was seated at the center table, composed and buttoned up, fielding questions from lawmakers on the House Judiciary Committee. The room was packed. The tension was already thick before a single word was spoken. Jasmine Crockett, the sharp tongued, fearless Democratic Congresswoman from Texas, had been waiting for her turn. And when she finally got the microphone, she came loaded. She was pressing Bondi on a specific line of questioning, one that touched directly on Department of Justice decisions that have drawn serious scrutiny from legal experts and civil rights groups alike. Crockett was methodical. She was pointed. She was building to something. And then Pam Bondi cut her off. Not because Crockett's time had expired, not because she violated any procedural rule. Bondi simply interjected, talking over Crockett, redirecting the conversation, and effectively shutting down the line of questioning before Crockett could land her final point. It was abrupt. It was visible. And the cameras caught every second of it. Here's where things got electric. Most politicians, when interrupted by someone in Bondi's position, would fumble. They lose their train of thought. They defer. Not Jasmine Crockett. She paused, just for a beat. Then she looked directly at Bondi and said words that are now being replayed across news networks nationwide. She made it crystal clear, on the record, on camera, and with zero hesitation, that she would not be silenced, that her question deserved an answer, that the American people, not the Attorney General, were the ones she was accountable to. And she said it with a calm, controlled authority that hit the room like a thunderclap. The audience in the gallery reacted. The other lawmakers reacted. Even members of Bondi's own side of the aisle visibly shifted in their seats. Because in that single moment, Jasmine Crockett had done something rare inside the marble walls of the U.S. Capitol. She had flipped the power dynamic in the room, and she had done it without raising her voice. Pam Bondi, for just a moment, had no immediate response. And that silence, it spoke volumes. Now, you might be thinking congressional hearings get heated all the time. Politicians interrupt each other. What makes this different? Everything. This was not a back and forth between two lawmakers of equal standing on a committee. This was the Attorney General of the United States, the nation's top law enforcement officer, silencing an elected member of Congress during an oversight hearing. That is the hearing that exists specifically to hold executive branch officials accountable. The entire purpose of that room on that day was for Congress to ask hard questions and get real answers. When Bondi shut Crockett down, she wasn't just cutting off one Congresswoman. Legal scholars are now arguing she was at least symbolically cutting off the oversight process itself. And that is a much bigger story. Congressional oversight is one of the most important checks written into American democracy. It is how the legislative branch keeps watch over the executive branch. It is one of the few mechanisms the public has to know what the Justice Department is actually doing behind closed doors. When a sitting AG moves to derail that process, even in a subtle procedural way, it sends a signal, and Washington is very good at reading signals within hours of the hearing ending. Legal analysts, former DOJ officials, and constitutional law professors were weighing in. The consensus was striking. What Bondi did was not just politically clumsy. It was, some argued, a window into a broader posture, one that treats congressional scrutiny as an obstacle rather than a mandate. While the legal debate was heating up in op-ed pages and cable news green rooms, something else was happening online. Jasmine Crockett's response was going viral. Not just viral, wildly, explosively viral. Clips of the exchange were cut and shared within minutes of the hearing ending. On X, formerly Twitter, the footage racked up millions of views before the evening news even aired. On TikTok, reaction videos poured in from creators across the political spectrum. Instagram Reels, YouTube clips, Reddit threads, the moment was everywhere. And the commentary was almost universally focused on one thing: the way Crockett held her ground. Her office confirmed she received an overwhelming flood of messages in the hours following the hearing. Constituents, fellow lawmakers, and members of the public who simply wanted to say, "We saw it, and we stood with you." Supporters called her composure surgical critics of Bondi. Even those who had never particularly followed Crockett's career before began sharing her past moments on the floor, suddenly discovering that this is not a woman who flinches easily, but here's the detail that is getting less attention, and it might be the most important one of all. The specific question that Bondi cut off, it was never fully answered. Crockett was pressing on a matter of genuine public concern, one tied directly to DOJ decisions that have real consequences for real Americans. By interrupting when she did, Bondi ensured that question remained unanswered, at least for now. And that is exactly the kind of move that does not go unnoticed on Capitol Hill. The political fallout is already rippling outward, and it is moving fast. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee issued a joint statement within hours of the hearing, calling Bondi's conduct disrespectful to the oversight process and demanding that the unanswered questions be addressed in writing, formally and on the record, within a specific deadline. That kind of coordinated response does not happen by accident. It means leadership made a decision. This moment was too significant to let slide. On the Republican side, the silence has been notably loud. Bondi's allies have not rushed to defend the move. There has been no press conference, no statement praising her handling of the hearing, no counter-narrative pushed out by the party's communications apparatus. When a political operation goes quiet after a headline like this, it usually means one thing: they know it did not play well. Independent political analysts are now pointing to this moment as a potential inflection point in how the DOJ's relationship with Congress is perceived by the public. Trust in the Justice Department has been a politically charged issue for years. Moments like this one, captured on video, shared instantly, stripped of context and spin, have a way of calcifying public opinion in ways that no press release can reverse. And Pam Bondi has to know that. This is the question Washington is whispering, and some are now asking out loud. Pam Bondi has had a complicated tenure as Attorney General. She came in with strong political backing and a clear mandate from the administration that appointed her. But oversight hearings are a different kind of arena. They are not campaign rallies. They are not press briefings where you control the room. They are the one place where elected lawmakers have the constitutional authority to demand answers, and the public has the right to watch it happen. When an ag is seen visibly on camera, cutting off that process, it does not just create a bad news cycle, it creates a narrative. And in politics, narratives are hard to shake. There are already calls from some corners of the Hill for Bondi to be called back for a follow-up hearing, one specifically designed to address the questions that were left unanswered. Whether that happens will depend on committee leadership and the appetite for continued confrontation. But the fact that those calls are being made at all tells you everything about how this moment landed. Some political insiders are privately comparing this to past moments where executive officials underestimated the power of a televised hearing exchange. In almost every historical case, those moments did not end well for the official who tried to shut things down. The camera has a long memory, and YouTube has a longer one. It would be a mistake to treat this story as only about one hearing, one interruption, or one exchange. Jasmine Crockett has been one of the most talked about voices in Congress for a reason. She came into the House as a former civil rights attorney, and she has never let the institution of Congress make her forget where she came from or who she represents. She has been in contentious hearings before. She has been in rooms where people tried to dismiss her before, and every single time she has used those moments to amplify, not retreat. What happened in this hearing was not an aberration for Crockett. It was a pattern. She walks into these rooms knowing that someone might try to cut her off. She prepares for it, and when it happens, she is ready, not to fight, but to make the moment mean something larger than the interruption itself. That is what she did with Bondi. She took a moment that was designed to diminish her and turned it into one of the defining clips of the congressional session. That is not luck. That is strategy, and it is working. Her colleagues in the Progressive Caucus are watching. Her constituents in Texas are watching. And now, after today, a whole new audience that had never heard of Jasmine Crockett before is watching too. So, where does this go from here? The immediate next step is the formal written response demand from the Judiciary Committee. Bondi's office will have to decide whether to comply, delay, or push back. And every one of those choices carries a political cost. If she complies and answers the questions Crockett raised, it validates that those questions deserved answers all along, which raises the obvious follow-up: why silence them in the first place? If she delays or refuses, she risks escalation, and a story that might have started to cool down gets reignited. There is also the matter of Crockett herself. Sources close to her office suggest she is not done with this issue. She is preparing follow-up questions, additional documentation requests, and is actively consulting with legal experts about the substance of her original line of inquiry. In short, this is not over. Not by a long stretch, and the broader political environment is only going to make this hotter, with midterm positioning already beginning to shape congressional strategy. Any moment that draws a clear contrast between oversight and obstruction becomes useful ammunition. Democrats will use this. They are already using it. And the longer the silence from Bondi's camp continues, the more useful it becomes. Here's the bottom line. Pam Bondi walked into that hearing room as the Attorney General of the United States, one of the most powerful legal positions in the world. She left it with a viral moment. She did not want a set of unanswered questions on the congressional record. And a congresswoman from Texas who just got a nationwide platform she did not have before the gavel dropped. In politics, as in all things, it is not just what you do, it is what you do when the cameras are on. Today, the cameras were on, and the story they captured is one that is going to be discussed, debated, and dissected for days to come. Jasmine Crockett got cut off, and Pam Bondi may have just made the biggest mistake of her tenure. This story is still developing. Follow this channel and hit that notification bell because the next move in this showdown could come at any moment, and you do not want to be the last one to know.